All right, let's talk a little bit about the budget. Let's talk a little bit about the trash contract. Let's talk a little bit about what's on the Metro Council's plate coming up next Tuesday night. My councilman, Aaron Moak, is in with us. Aaron, welcome back, man. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning. Good to be here. A little rush getting in here, a little late getting up, but hey, I made it.
I appreciate the hustle. I appreciate the effort, and the audience does as well. Let's start with what was in our news stories a minute ago. Mayor Broom's adding a $5 million budget amendment for stormwater funding. I feel like on a normal day, we see an addition of $5 million, and a lot of people will be ticked about it. This is a different circumstance because we were told it was $40 million not long ago, and we're all going to have to pay a hell of a lot more in taxes.
Correct. Yeah. Look, here's the deal with the $5 million is when we was going through the whole, let's just call it what it is, the whole stormwater fiasco and everything.
Fiasco's generous because it doesn't point fingers.
I know, right?
Yeah, fiasco doesn't point fingers, so you're being nice.
We started looking at everything, and we got down to the brass tacks of it. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work to be done. $5 million is not going to cover everything, but we started looking at what we needed to get into compliance or try and maintain our compliancy with DEQ and all the different agencies and everything. EPA, and a lot of it came down to, if we can get about $5-6 million in the budget, we can get some work done to hopefully hold up any kind of consent decree.
Right.
And, we started scratching, looking around everywhere we can, and even from the general fund as far as surplus or whatever, that's where the $5 million came from. We're at 9.5 right now on drainage. This right here is to go a long way in helping out with maintaining that till we can come up with another game plan to try and stay in MS4 compliance.
Right.
So the $5 million is great. Still got a long way to go, but look, that's great. Now we can, kind of keep a look at all the different agencies. And I think there's several council members that are looking at several possible budget amendments to bring some more in.
So $5 million, obviously not going to get the whole thing done,
No.
but when coupled with the ARPA funds that are coming in for next year,
Correct.
It should be enough to allow us to continue to survive.
Yes. Well, it'll allow us to hopefully stave off any kind of compliance thing. Now, understand, the ARPA funds are one-time funds.
No, absolutely.
What they're looking for is a sustainable funding mechanism to sustain this. The ARPA funds have already been set as far as given out and everything and how much they are. So you already have a definition of how much that is and going to be. Those ARPA funds come through, and we set them aside for certain projects and so on. The thing is a sustainable funding source, and that's what we got to work on.
A lot of people still get lost in the fact that the word stormwater is attached to this because
Correct.
It's so much more than that. Because there's a mindset of, well, okay, so you clean out all the drainage canals and everything, and yeah, that's an ongoing process, but how is that an additional $40 million a year? And then when you throw out terms like DEQ or EPA, now you're starting to talk about the bigger question of, wait, this isn't water falls to earth, water drains off.
Correct, because when you're talking about drainage and stormwater and everything, and just like in the whole package that was out before, you had garbage in there. So,
Right.
Street sweepers and things like that.
Yeah.
So the stormwater is about the quality of the water as it drains through Baton Rouge. It has to get through all the drainage pipes and everything, but then they start talking about quality of that water and catch base and what you have to put in there to catch it. What's draining through the litter and everything that's going through the system. Yeah, the litter helps clog up the system, but then again, it also changes, I guess, whatever qualifications they need for it.
Yeah.
As far as the way the water drains.
I mean, the money gets ridiculous quick, though.
It does.
I mean,
It sucks. Excuse me.
No, it's all good.
The federal regulations that they do, the federal regulations they bring down on us, is just it's honestly it's quite asinine that the things that they do and the timeline that they try and force you under.
The timelines is a weird thing, though, because as I understand it, we've been out of compliance for a really long time, and it's a kind of the opposite of a hurry up and wait. It's a wait, and hurry.
Yes, the timeline's been out there for a long time. And don't get me wrong, it has been put off by not just one, two, possibly three administrations.
Right.
And maybe that's whatever when you say put off, it's not that they don't care. It's just, we've got plenty of time. We'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
Well, then all of a sudden they come up to us and they say, here, you have till X amount of time.
Right.
So then you start scrambling like this and you come up with these programs too quickly and the things you can and can't do. And then you start throwing out NDAs and all that kind of stuff. Then you got a real problem. So when it comes to the timeline, what I mean by timeline, DEQ and them, sometimes they start, other regulations come down the pipe. Well, that gets thrown in on top of what you're trying to already accomplish every time Congress changes or whatever. So that's where, so if you don't change the timeline to match those new things that are coming in with the other stuff, then that's where I was talking about it kind of all start cramming in together. Because wherever the timeline is, and even if they throw new regulations on, you still got to meet that along with what you're going under for.
Can Mayor Broom ever throw an elbow back uphill? And this is a very legitimate question because the consent decree is going to come around in the answer. But at a certain point, can she look to EPA and say, look, I'm going to run my city?
Look, it's funny you bring that up because me and a couple other council members were talking with the parish attorney's office yesterday, and we was talking about the NDA and everything and trying to get information that we needed, and that actually came up. It's eventually going to get to a point that, and Garrett Graves has helped us out so much, we're going to have to go to our federal people, our federal representatives and everything, and say, you know, if you're going to do something, get it done. Because we're working here trying to do this, but if you're already hell-bent and determined to start throwing this on top of us, get it done. We've got it. You said it right. We've got a city to run. We've got to move forward, but we're doing what we can. And go ahead and let's get it out there and be done.
No one can perform under a microscope for an indefinite period of time.
Correct.
Either let's do this or let's not.
Right. Especially when, like you said a while ago, especially when you keep adding the requirements, but you don't change the timeline to get the added in or anything like that.
Yeah, and this isn't a matter of, like, to do a comparison here, this isn't a matter of, like, your professor put a test at the end of the semester on your syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and then you just forgot about it. This is a matter of the professor said, there'll be a test at some point, but never said when.
Right. Correct.
How bad would a consent decree actually look like?
Really bad.
Yeah.
And
that's why you can't throw an elbow.
Correct. It's hard to make that call because we will wind up paying more under a consent decree.
Yeah.
Just like with the sewer thing. But the sewer thing is like this never-ending situation. And that's the way that the termination or the contract was written out under the consent decree back then. Trying to stave that off where they come up with definitive things if we do go under a consent decree. But that's the scary part. Yeah. You know, I don't want to be sitting in the council one day having to make just a general vote. Yes, I have to pass this. Yay. You know, why are we even bringing this to us? We got to vote yes because they're going to tell us this is what you have to do. This is how much it's going to cost and get it done now. Or it's fine after fine after fine after fine after fine.
Okay, let me ask this. And this, even Dwight might shudder at this one. But what if we tell the EPA no? They say you're under a consent decree and we say we choose not to recognize the authority of this bureaucracy as our government. What if we tell the EPA no, we don't accept your consent decree?
Well, consent decree. As far as overall, I have no idea. I don't think they could do anything as far as what we're doing structurally wise, as far as fixing and repairing. I think what would happen is it becomes fine after fine after fine, and what that does later on for withholding any funds that might come down the pipe. Mm-hmm. So you know they keep stacking on this bill. I kind of agree with where you might be going there. It's like. What are you going to do to it? Okay, we can't shut down the city. We have to provide services. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the best I've heard is fines.
Metro Councilman Aaron Moak is our guest. And, Aaron, this is every time we hear about, there's some federal dollars coming down, this is a good thing. This is the part we don't talk about, is that every time we hear a story like that, we're now on the hook for that.
Correct.
That's where we become the dependents.
Correct. And you know, it's like, with the regulations and everything, it's like the highway or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's either you pass these regulations and stuff and you do these things, or you're not getting what's coming down the line until you do. Yeah. And that's a big problem because whether you have ARPA funds or pandemic, any kind of thing like that, you always, every municipality relying on grants and funds and everything coming down the pipe.
Got a couple minutes left with Metro Councilman Aaron Moak. Greatly appreciate your time this morning. We're talking a little bit about the budget, and everything's going to devolve to stormwater. We could break down the rest of the budget at another time, but I want to move over to this garbage contract. I first heard about this in early November, interestingly enough, at a meeting of the Jones Creek Area Business Association, whose Christmas parade's coming up Sunday, by the way. More on that later. But I first heard about this in early November, where it was, at the time, likely that our fees would go up while our services would go down. And now that's exactly what y'all are going to be talking about Tuesday night. Is this going to move forward?
Yes. So obviously it's coming forward. There's going to be a lot of discussion. What was presented to us 2 or 3 weeks ago is we got a list of what was coming. So one of the misconceptions was that it was not put out for bid. It was put out for bid. Mm-hmm. We can't put out a contract like this without putting it out for bid. 3 people came back. Republic got the bid again. So at that point, they start talking negotiations and everything. So they come to us. We got 3 options. We can continue the same service for $15.25 or something extra per month.
Same service for 15 more months. That's exactly right.
Forward, 15 whatever. Another option was $5.50 for 1 day pickup, 1 day recycle. All the rest of the pretty much kind of maintains for $5.50. Mm-hmm. I forget what the third option was, but
I think the third option was reduce the amount of service, which seemed unfathomable to me.
So what we looked at was what's the least detrimental cost-wise on things. We start looking at other municipalities around us at about the same size. What are they? Yes, we're losing 1 day, but what are the other municipalities? And literally, most 90% are dropping or coming or have been at 1 day a week. I mean, the cans are huge.
They are.
Cans and stuff like that.
But we're yes, filthy people, Aaron. We go through a lot of what.
It's the service that you're used to. And it's being provided now, and you're dropping, but yet going up $5.50. It's hard to imagine, but it was our best option to start off with and start looking at.
Okay, and I personally, so Mondays and Thursdays. Monday is recycling and garbage. Thursday is just garbage. I never use Thursday. We don't go through that much in the Haldane house, and there's 5 of us. So I'm not going to suffer on that end.
Right. There's only 2 in mine, and we put it out every couple of weeks.
Behind, correct. I'm going to pay you more to get less.
You're absolutely
even
right.
If it's something I don't use. The next question I have, though, is it was put out for bid. Republic is the only one that came back that could fit our needs. Why is that? Why there's like a River Parish down the road, like nobody else can do? What's so special about Republic service that they're the only ones that can do what we need?
Because of what we put in the requirements of the RFP. I mean, anytime you put an RFQ out, you have certain requirements and everything. I mean, one of the big things over the last contract, you learn from the last period of your contracts and everything else. You know, we had new equipment. They're required to have new equipment. The old arms, like lift and through the trash up into the thing, these do a conveyor belt and they go over. They're more sealed and they're more contained as far as dropping hydraulic fluids and things like that. So they're required to have X amount of new units. They're required to have the cameras on the thing. And a lot of people think, well, why do I need cameras? Get rid of those or whatever. Well, if you go back and you geotag every unit and somebody calls in and says, oh, they missed my garbage, and you pull up that address and you see that unit and you say, well, the garbage wasn't out there. Or, yeah, you're absolutely right. And another great thing about this contract versus a lot of the others, the city parish now has repercussion to fine Republic if the complaints don't drop or certain requirements are not met and so on. We now have the ability to go back and fine Republic to not pay X amount of dollars or whatever, or they have to pay us back.
Bury the lead much? We're in the last 30 seconds of the segment.
Sorry. Everybody, yes, we get this fine now. I know, right?
No, that's okay. That's the news that nobody else is talking about.
Now we have a lot more control and say with the 311 calls.
Okay. And like, what does it, I don't want to say, what does it take to get that done? I don't want to make it sound like I'm mount up an army of complaint calls. That's
correct. No, we don't want to do that.
But as somebody who has been remarkably dissatisfied with service, as somebody who sees garbage up and down the road after they come through, for stuff that clearly wasn't my garbage, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. So
we do have recourse here.
Right, yeah. So you talk about garbage up and down the road. Again, with the new units that were required and everything, it's hard for other companies to make, but everybody has an opportunity. But a lot of that keeps the garbage out of thing, which goes back to the MS4 thing. But yes, you're absolutely right. The big thing for me was, and we've asked this before when we had a bunch of complaints after the pandemic, what is our recourse? And they're like, there's really not a lot we can do. We got to get on them and make them pick up the garbage. This was one of the biggest things for me was, hey, you're not doing your job. We have reporting here. They go back and look at the cameras, say, you know, you're absolutely right. We can't defend ourselves. Send a fine.
Way to close on the best part of it, man. That was an awesome ending. He is Metro Councilman Aaron Moak. I appreciate a couple minutes this morning.
Look, thank you for letting me be here. Anytime, I'd love to do it.
Always, we love having you. We blew right past CBS News. Don't